What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and I'm very excited to make this episode today because this is going to be an episode that kind of validates some of my prior arguments. You know, I get in a lot of hot water when I mention that Rolex has very strong value retention, or I say companies like, I don't know, Cartier and Hublot, you know, they don't have the best value retention. And people are like, well, where's the proof? Where's the proof? And the truth is, yeah, I should show you guys some proof. So today we're going to be talking about 6 companies who are the worst when it comes to value retention, and 2 that generally speaking have the best numbers when it comes to value retention. So although still I do not recommend purchasing watches as investments, hopefully this gives you a bearing on what the heck I've been talking about for, you know, 3 years on YouTube. So yeah, let's do it. It's 12:35 p.m. Let's get down to business. Okay, so let's start by looking at the 6 worst value retainers when it comes to, you know, watch collecting, watch companies, watchmakers, whatever you want to say. First up, Longines. All right, now I don't want to get this twisted. All right, I do like some of the companies on this list, and 2 things can be true at the same time. I can like a company, and that company can also not hold their value very well. But Longines, they typically do not have the best numbers when it comes to value retention. We're going to take a look at a Conquest reference number L3687456. This is a fairly common watch. It's not like an obscure watch that we're using to sample here. These are all actually very, very popular watches that I've chosen for this list. But the MSRP on this watch is $1,280. The average pre-owned price is $474, which gives it a 37% value retention. That's not great. Now, I want you guys to interact with me in the comment section of this episode. Why do you think that is? Give me some insight. Maybe you guys have an idea why some of these companies aren't retaining their value well. When it comes to Longines, I have a sneaking suspicion they just make too many watches. And guys, although these modern Longines watches do not hold their value very well, I've been saying it for years, the vintage market, that's where the bang for buck is. In my opinion, Longines made their best watches in the 50s, 60s, 70s. These new ones, sure, they're nice, I'm sure they're well made, but they're kind of overpriced for what they are, and their, you know, value retention just tanks. And speaking of tanks, let's move on to a company I absolutely love, Cartier. Guys, again, multiple things can be true at the same time. Cartier, probably one of my top 5 favorite watchmakers. Their value just notoriously plummets. And that's why I've told all of you, probably don't buy a Cartier new, try to find one secondhand, because you don't want to be taking that initial hit. For example, we're going to be taking a look at a Cartier Tank Américain, reference number CRW2609156. Some of these companies have very long reference numbers. This is a yellow gold Cartier Tank Américain with the date complication at the 6 o'clock. Beautiful watch. I actually wore this when it came out at a Cartier boutique, and I looked at the price tag and I was like, whoa, $15,100. That's a pretty penny. I mean, it's a gorgeous watch. And again, Cartier, some of the most understated, elegant pieces. They really take risks when they're designing their watches, and they were very, very innovative, and we have them to thank for a lot of what we see now in horology. I think Cartier is kind of written off as a fashion watch company, but truly they are one of the first watchmakers, period. But back to what we were talking about, $15,100 for this Cartier Tank Américain. Pre-owned, average price, you can find them for $5,995. Oh my God. So guys, I'm not going to like sugarcoat this. For most people, myself included, $5,995, that's also a pretty penny. But when you look at the MSRP being $15,000 plus, just under $6,000 seems like a steal. And when we calculate that, that brings us up to a 39.7% value retention. Not that much above Longines. Moving on to an obvious choice, we're gonna talk about a company I absolutely love to hate, Hublot. More like you blow your money when you buy one, and you're never gonna get it back. For example, the Hublot Classic reference number 1915 BS101, BS probably stands for bullshit. The MSRP on this watch was honestly fairly reasonable at $4,000 on the button. You know, Hublot charges much more than that nowadays. But for this specific reference number, $4,000 MSRP, whatever. But then you take a look at the pre-owned prices and you can find them for around $1,468. You wonder why people have a very hard time unloading their Hublots that they buy. Man, crazy. Maybe Hublot is garbage after all. I'm kidding. As I said, just because something doesn't have the best resale value doesn't mean it's necessarily garbage. In Hublot's case, absolutely they are, and they have a 37% value retention. But guys, again, in all fairness, I'm kind of staggering this list. We look at companies I don't like, we look at companies I'm very fond of, maybe another company I don't like, back to a company I'm very fond of, Breitling. Guys, I love Breitling. They're another company that's very horologically significant, and I'm proud to own a Breitling Navitimer that I absolutely love. Unfortunately, in the past, I'd say 5 years, Breitling has had some trouble business-wise, and their resale values have taken a dive. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at a Breitling Navitimer B01, the 43mm variant. This watch has an MSRP of $9,250, but when you can find them secondhand pre-owned for $4,500, it's another punch in the stomach. That's only a 48.6% retention of value. So guys, I'm not giving you this information to kind of freak you out about how difficult it's gonna be to resell your watches. I'm giving you this information so that you have a reasonable expectation of watch collecting as a whole. Guys, this validates what I've been trying to say. Okay, buy what you like and don't worry about the rest, because if you're looking to buy these, to flip these as investment pieces so that you can just kind of retire on your watches, I don't think that's prudent, and that's definitely not how I operate my watch collection. So I'm giving you this information so that, yeah, there's some companies that we don't like on the list that don't do very well secondhand, and there's companies that we do really like that also don't do very well secondhand. But I own a Breitling Navitimer. I have a reasonable expectation that I'm probably not going to be able to flip it for a ton of money. And guess what? I still love that watch. It's one of my favorite chronographs of all time. Next up, a company I get into a lot of trouble for talking trash about, Tag Heuer. Okay, not Heuer, Tag Heuer specifically. They do not do very well on the secondhand market. Oftentimes, the second you buy one, you open it up and you take it out of the plastic, you're losing money. And that's fine if you like the watch. Unfortunately, Tag Heuer charges too much for what you're getting, so a lot of people, when they purchase a Tag Heuer, they think they're getting some ultimate piece of, you know, luxury watchmaking, and that they're going to be able to flip this for a ton of money because, hey, I spent a ton of money on it, right? Wrong! For instance, one of their very popular models, the Tag Heuer Carrera Cal 16, MSRP for just under $5,000, $4,850. Pre-owned though, you'll find them all day long, averaging around $2,450. So to use my prior little scenario, you go ahead, buy that Carrera Cal 16, you're excited, you just spent around $5,000 on a luxury watch, maybe it's your first one, you bring it home, you take it out of the box, you pull that plastic off of it, you cut that hang tag, you put it on the wrist, and you've just lost 50% of your investment. That's right, from $4,850 to $2,450, that's a 50.5% value retention. Guys, that really shouldn't matter in the long run though, because if you're just excited to own that watch, who cares about the retention in value? But again, I'm just giving you some more information so that you have reasonable expectations. In rounding out our list for some of the worse value retainers in the watch world, a company that's kind of coming out of left field, Piaget. Now, Piaget is one of these very interesting watchmakers that I'm actually quite fond of. They do things similar to Cartier. They're kind of more elegant, maybe even effeminate. They kind of make fanciful watches, and they definitely take risks. I mean, their Altiplano series, they make a watch that's like only a few millimeters thin. It's mechanical. You need a special tool to wind it, but when you look at it from the side, it's practically microscopic. So guys, they are some heavy hitters in the watchmaking world, but their value retention isn't really great at all. One of their most popular watches is actually one of their more reasonably priced watches. It's known as their Piaget Polo watch. The MSRP is $11,900, but pre-owned you can find them very often for $6,994 on average. So the value retention is 58.7%, and that's actually the best of the worst. So what I'm saying is, although it's on the list of kind of one of the worst value retainers, it's actually doing the best. So you're doing fine, sweetie. So guys, the 6 watchmakers that I just listed, and I accuse them of not having the best value retention, they're in stark contrast to the next 2 watchmakers I want to bring up. These 2 heavy hitters, generally speaking, do the best when it comes to value retention. First up, King of the Castle. You know, they literally have the crown, and they have a threaded crown. Usually, Rolex. That's right, I get in trouble all the time when I say Rolex has some of the best value retention, and Rolex haters that say that Rolex is just marketing, they never want to bring that up in their argument. Interesting. So I'm going to use one of Rolex's least expensive watches to prove their value retention. The Rolex Explorer, the Explorer 1, reference number 214270. MSRP on this watch is $6,550. Now the average pre-owned price is $4,657. That's a 71% retention in value. Now I'm telling you this to prove that you might lose some money even with Rolex, but if you wait, you can often recoup and oftentimes make money back. But guys, full disclosure, I'm trying to be reasonable in this episode. I chose the Explorer 1 on purpose because it's not a super rare Rolex. It's not highly complicated. In fact, there's not a complication on the watch at all. It's not terribly desirable, although full disclosure again, at the time of filming, this is a very, very sought after watch. The popularity is increasing steadily, and I have a feeling that in the next year or two, this Explorer 1 reference number is going to be way above 71% value retention. I think it's going to be in the positives, and I think if you have one, you'll probably be able to make money on it in the next couple years. Because guys, with Rolex's new releases, the Submariner now being 41 millimeters, let's see, the Oyster Perpetual now being ginormous, it's only a matter of time for Rolex to start cutting these smaller sized Oyster cases. I'd be surprised if the next couple years they have any Rolex Oyster cases that are under 40 millimeters. I don't think it's ever going to happen unless we're talking about the female versions. So yeah, this Explorer 1, it's gonna skyrocket in price in the next few years. Just mark my words. Moving on to another company that does very, very well, generally speaking, when we're looking at value retention, Patek Philippe. Oh, beautiful. It's too beautiful! But again, I'm gonna be reasonable, and I'm gonna pick one of their watches that I absolutely hate. The Aquanaut, reference number 5065. The MSRP on this sports watch, although let's be honest, this is not the sports watch that you want from Patek Philippe. Everybody wants the Nautilus. This Aquanaut's just like... MSRP is $15,500, but pre-owned, they sell for $11,750. So that's a 76% value retention. And again, this is not one of their very sought after watches. So you can imagine with some of their precious metal pieces, some of their more sought after pieces like the Aquanaut and some of their Calatrava variants, the value retention is going to be crazy. It's going to be in the positives. So guys, I hope this episode helps you. I hope it gives you, some reasonable expectations out there, and I hope you get what I'm saying. I hope I've driven the point home that you really shouldn't be buying watches to invest in. You shouldn't get caught up in the value retention, and you should be buying what you want. Because again, I personally own a Breitling Navitimer, and just this research proves probably not going to be able to make very much money off of it. I personally own a Cartier tank. I absolutely love that watch. One of my favorite dress watches of all time. I know that I'm probably not going to make a ton of money on it if I go and try to flip it. But it is what it is. I love the watches because I love these watches. I don't care about any of the other metrics. But let me know what you think. In the comment section, again, I mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, why do you think these numbers are the way they are? Are these companies making too many of their watches? I mean, Longines probably does. Tag Heuer absolutely makes too many watches. I think Breitling, their catalog has become far too expansive. That's what I'm trying to say. I think they have way too many models, way too many variants of models. They have Navitimers in 43mm and 46mm, and they should just kind of simplify it. And guys, the big heavy hitters, the Holy Trinity, in fact, they are not immune to poor value retention. In fact, Vacheron Constantin, they're part of the Holy Trinity. They're a coveted hot horology watchmaker. They're a company that I think is actually the best out of the Holy Trinity. Some of their watches only have about a 50% value retention, and that's very interesting because Vacheron actually caps the amount of watches they make every year. But still, you know, certain companies aren't immune to poor value retention on the secondhand market, and some companies out of left field just do very well. So why is this? Please give me some insight. What say you? Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I just realized my hair. Guys, my hair, first of all, I need a haircut, okay? I absolutely need a haircut. I haven't had a haircut in 4 months or something because I live in Los Angeles and everything's still closed. So I apologize for just, I'm gonna hold myself accountable. I apologize for looking so sexy.
Oh yeah.
Don't watch my show with your girlfriend in your room. I get so much hate mail. Oh, I stupidly turned on your episode when my girlfriend's in the room and now she can't stop talking about you. She keeps saying, let's get down to business, but not with you. She wants to get down to business with me. I'm sorry, man. She's told me. I had to block her on Instagram. Leave me alone. But seriously, guys, thank you so much for having fun with me. This was a very fun episode to make, and the research was very fun as well to do some hacker man. Calculating, aggregating, compilations. I'm a numbers guy. Check out all the affiliate links in the description below if you had some fun during this episode and you want to support us. That's a great way of doing it. Just, you know, chilling, watching the content. That's also probably the easiest way to help us out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click that bell icon so you get notified when we upload. We upload Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a live stream Q&A every single Saturday with 2 extra pieces of content every week if you're a channel member. That's right, join the channel. It's essentially YouTube's Patreon. You get those 2 extra pieces of content every week, and you get access to the members only Discord chat. That's the most fun I've ever had with anything in relation to this channel. That Discord chat is amazing. I love my certified T3 bot channel members. Check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. Whole bunch of ways to support us, and we thank you so much for doing so. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.